All right, everybody, we're going to start. All right, everybody, we're going to start. I want to thank everybody for coming to this lecture. I've heard Viktoras many times before. When I first got involved in the raw food movement many years ago, I got into it thanks to the Hippocrates Health Institute. And I did a lot of research, and two things I couldn't do back then was pronounce Hippocrates or pronounce Viktoras Kulvinskas. But now, not only can I do both of those, but I'm very blessed to say I teach class at Hippocrates, but I become very good friends with Viktoras. And a quick story before I introduce him, very quick, is Viktoras teaches at Hippocrates Health Institute, which I live next to. And one time I offered to drive him back to the airport in Miami. And I like to get up early, and usually I'm waiting for people. And Viktoras said, like, meet me at 4:30 in the morning. And I'm usually always the one there first, and I'm waiting for somebody. Viktoras is the only guy I know who was there waiting for me. So it's just a great sign of what doing a consistent raw diet for all these years can do. And Viktoras has a tremendous amount of knowledge, and his sense of humor is okay too. And I'm just
nothing like Paul's.
But I'm just honored and blessed to be introducing him, and I definitely recommend you get his books, videos, tapes, and all that good stuff. Anything he recommends, I would recommend you get. And without any further ado, give a big, big round of applause for Viktoras Kulvinskas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Good morning. Is this on?
No, Viktoras. Paul, he doesn't get it.
I don't need it. If we only had a crystal ball, we certainly would love to get an insight into what's going to happen 10 minutes from now. But we have the benefits of wheatgrass. So I am about we will channel the angels of the wheatgrass. We are living in very challenging times. It's hard to know who's who and who are the players, but there is definitely a time of paradigm shift. Max Planck, a nuclear physicist, that creator of the electromagnetic theory, he states that a new paradigm is not one in academic arguments. Instead, what happens is that through grassroots action, the people become familiar, and the opponents die off, and it becomes a common truth. And it took about one generation to create the vegan movement. It took another generation to create the consciousness of raw foodism. And we're looking at, in terms of prophetically, I state that by 2012, you will be, everybody on planet Earth will be vegan, and also majority will be raw, or they will be green and vegan, or else you're not going to be here. You're going to be somewhere else, recycled, incarnated, making a shift. Now, what is coming down the pike is very dramatic. Even such conservative magazines like Reader's Digest states that in November of 1999, in their journal, by many prestigious futurists, they predict that plagues is not an issue of if, it's only when. And we had in 1918, whether it was planned and structured, but about 30% of the global population was died off, left the planet. Well, we had far less people then. Even in my days, when I was born, there were only 1 billion people on the planet. Right now, there's 7. Well, take 30% of 7, and that is a conservative figure. You're looking at losing 2 to 3 billion people, just like that. Some forms of viral situation. Now, this doesn't have to happen to anybody. Matter of fact, the big scare some years ago, 2 years ago, you go back, was avian flu. Yet the Koreans looked in their own tradition and history. What were the superfoods, the power foods? Kimchi is one thing that every family in Korea has it brewing at home. And they did the research on kimchi, and sure enough, not only did it cure, but it prevented avian flu. The Germans were not eager to stay too far behind. About 4 months later, they released their studies showing sauerkraut will do the job. Well, if you watched the movie 9/11 was a great show too. Just have to get a summary of it by picking up Loose Change free on cyberspace. Nice movie. No, 11th Hour. And also, you may even Google up on the internet the secret life of microbes. But we are of microbial origin, the most powerful ally. If you create a diplomatic and good feeding relationships with the microbial dynasty that is the #1 cellular environment within your system, 90% of your body is composed not of cells, only 10% of your body is of human cells, 90% of it is microbial, microbes. And they create not only your enzymatic reserves, they fix nitrogen from the air, and you can get as much, according to Oolong and Huxley, as much as 30 grams of protein on a daily basis. That's getting all your protein requirement. You can be a breatharian if you wanted to. Just have a good thing going with your bugs. They also are B-complex, the right analog. If you detoxify yourself well enough, most people have a thick layer of sludge in their stomach, so they can't get that intrinsic X factor out of the microbial origin into their system. And so they're going to go around taking vitamin B complex supplementation. They also create a hostile environment to all pathogens, whether it's salmonella or all the different viral potentials. And with their rich enzymatic spill out, they wipe out the viral environment. Nothing to be worried about. You can visit me at Viktoras.org, and I will have not only, because it's impossible within an hour to cover what I have a desire to cover, you will have a full presentation there with my introduction to Introduction 2012, as well as 2002. Basically, when you take it as a summary, it's a strategy for thriving in this era. So there are things that looks kind of scary. The compromised immune system is a reality. Average fetus that they examined in 2007 had over, placenta had over 250 chemicals that are recognized. Your tap water has over 60 meds pouring out into your drinking water. The air is sick. Immersion electromagnetic fields in the jungles. My son over there hooked up a little $20 antenna to the laptop and had high-definition television blasting through that laptop. We're all immersed in a soup of unknown origin. Tesla was very concerned, but he couldn't do shit with Edison blasting out at 60 cycles per second, which is kind of stressful to the organism. I've talked to seniors and other than seniors who are in electromagnetic field free environment. They immerse themselves in it and they're getting healed of all kind of diseases. We are definitely in a soup of high level of stress. How do you stay strong? You got to build a strong electromagnetic field. You are a nothingness of space, a dance of vibrational energy due to an agreement that we have incarnating in this time, so we can see all this wonderful energy vortexes that are so kind of structures it and gives you your identity. But we are electromagnetic. You can go into vibrational theory. You can go with Chopra. It's all invisible. There is nothing but a dance of energy fields. I cover that extensively in my book, Survival in the 21st Century, on the nature of your reality. Well, electrical and the electrical force is generated by alkalinity, acidity, a contrast, the yin and the yang. And this electrical force is created by your dietary choice. We need to realkalize. All nature is into alkaline nutrition. The plants, the animals, even the carnivores, they dive for the gut of their kill, and they consume first the salad in the stomach that exists of the vegan animals, and then they go for the liver, for the heart. These are most alkaline. That's what they're called, sweet meats. They have a pH of around 12, but civilized human beings have a pH of their liver, kidney, their gallbladder has dropped down to around 8, moving more and more due to the onslaught of acidic intake. But in spite of it, the internal organs, because of high electrovoltage, they're able to function 24/7 nonstop. Your muscles have a very low electrovoltage field. So they need recuperation and recovery due to acidic lifestyle choices. But take a look at animals. Animals never sleep. They rest. On a raw approach, you'll find more and more, especially when you're doing alkaline juices, you do a liquid program, you notice you hardly have to sleep at all. An hour, 20 minutes, just a little sack out, and all of a sudden you're back again. Animals rest. Go horizontal. Matter of fact, humans are so damn addicted to verticality. It is as disease and as sickness. I have to tell you, long-lived people crash. They crash, they do catnapping, they do savasana, they do the Muslims, they really got their heads wired correctly. They do the salutation, you know, they bend down, worship the Creator. Well, you hyper-elongate that spine, reconstitute energy flow. You got to take time out like that. You don't have to do long. It's just knowing how to relax. Stress is killing you. Even on bad cooked food that we feed to our pets, they live about 40 times the time that it takes for them to reach sexual maturity. That's like 20 years. Takes half a year to reach sexual maturity. Well, hell, apply that rule to human beings. 40 times to measure the sexual maturity reached by 15. Let's say 40 times 15. That's 600. My mathematics is still good. My God. We're very different. All animal species have 40 to 100 times minimal this factor throughout the kingdom. How come humans have such a low ratio? 4 times? It has to do with we're too damn vertical. And we're also out of alignment of nature. We're acidified. We're into stress. Now, what will alkalinity do? Well, you got choices. You either go for the alkaloid, which will neutralize your acid condition temporarily and make you high, or you can go alkaline without side effects and stay high all the time. Now, what is high? It means communion with the source. It means creative urges are flowing through you. Your mind is ever experiencing the bliss of ever-present of eternal, unconditional, not only love, but also abundance and a sense of what is coming down the pike. We want to all know what's coming down. We want to know what this shift, this paradigm shift, that's about to be taking place. Now, from numerology point of view, and I've been studying numerology, and you might want to go to affinitynumerology.com. It's free. Plug in your numbers and plug in my numbers. I'm February 23rd, 1939. Now revealed. Now I'm dated. You'll see what your life is all about. My life is, in terms of numerology, it is to download the evolutionary plan of the Creator and share it with the masses. Now, I resisted that for years, but I got trained. The universe will train you. All you have to do is say, hey, I'm available. Take me. Most people resist and fight, and they try to fit into the establishment and not be happy. You want to be happy? Allow the divine puppeteer out of the zodiac, choreograph your dance. Or else be a klutz the rest of your life and an antidepressant and be miserable. You got no choice. Life is predestined. You wrote your script. Now, when you alkalize yourself high enough, most people are, according to all the studies related to mental faculties and intellectual performance. On this acid-oriented diet, what we have is Dumbing of America. You have Times, Newsweek over there saying, oh my God, our high school kids are graduating with second grade education. The mental IQ is just diminishing. Ability to absorb information is because electrovoltage is diminishing not only physical stamina, but also neurological stamina, intellectual stamina. When you start alkalizing, you can start cranking up your intellectual performance to around 35, 40. And we've done that, like for instance, with super blue-green algae. As an example, we took a village from Nicaragua of 2,000 children with the lowest academic performance in the nation, and all they took was 1/4 of a teaspoon of this blue-green algae, and within one school year they became the top school in the country, going up by 2 grades, and also all kind of other health parameters improved. What do you need is some of the things that are there. The blue color vibrates with your throat chakra. It's in the blue-green algae. It's got also the purple, which vibrates with your crown chakra. So it makes you very intuitive. You sit down into meditation and the sound current just jumps up to a high volume amplitude when you're in that kind of meditative state, especially if you take it sublingual. But the realkalizing will increase your mental faculty production and activity. But what will really take you there, and I've done that when I was on a very acid diet, though coffee was always very helpful and it was readily available for me to keep myself going, mentally, but was stop eating. That's something that I learned. I learned 2 things. Stop your mind and stop eating. And all of a sudden, you peak at genius level. Matter of fact, it's not genius level. It's beyond that. You have access to total knowledge. If you can still your mind, and then you become a prophet in your times. However, you're no different than the rest of the animal kingdom. When Krakatoa was about to explode, 2-3 days later, the sailors reported in their logs, all kind of animals were leaving the island before that a volcano erupted. Before that tsunami came that was on the Gulf Stream, on the Pacific Rim, on Indian Ocean and all those areas, elephants and all kind of animals were moving up to high land, way days ahead. They know. So when you, even if you're not doing the right thing, when you start seeing your cats and dogs are restless, your rats are leaving the city, you might take a clue that there is something about to happen. We need to write our script, to write our future. Because we're moving into also high level of radiation. Not only we're going through a galactic plane solar system, which is going to be an extremely high radiation by December of 2012, but also during that time, it'll be peak solar flares, sunspot cycles that are basically they're like hurricanes on the sun. And they're emanating strong electrovoltage fields and solar flares that affects our whole power system, power grid, as well as also affect they basically radiation field. Now, you can get fried under those kind of conditions. However, research in my book Survival, I documented from all kind of studies in radiation review. They exposed animals to lethal dosages of radiation. They were not touched as long as they consumed green. It's kind of interesting, reminiscent of also states of consciousness. Most of the people who do fire walking and fire dancing are not exactly into green foods and doing plant-based diet or raw foods, yet they're able to pull it off. I've done it many times, and I'm sure many of you have likewise. It's your state of consciousness, your overall attitude. That includes also, as an example, Hiroshima. In Hiroshima, the bomb was dropped. The nuclear bomb was dropped there. And in the rim of destruction, there was a monastery. Happened to be a Christian monastery that not only survived the structure, usually they build them very well anyways, but what happened was the monks the Franciscan monks who were there, they were not affected at all by the radiation. Well, that's reminiscent of Daniel and his Essene brothers who were dropped into fire dens to be weenie roasted. They danced in the fire and glorified God. It's your attitude. It's your perspective. Do you buy into fear? I broke my kneecap some years ago. I was going to do a workshop with about 150 people attending up in the Catskills. I arrived a day early. I was unloading the truck. And I love always to volunteer for all kind of research and experiments. I hadn't done really any contact healing type of work. So this was, might as well go for the extreme. So I was unloading with slippery wet, and I landed on my knee on that ledge, which was steel, dropped like knife shooting through my heart. It was agonizing pain. And of course, I was alone on that camp. They were giving me the key. I arrived there, and I had no phone or anything like that. And I got to choose my realities. I mean, my realities is go through the normal process of, call up doctors, let them fix you up, or I connect it to the source. We have the most unbelievable Reichian energy fields between our hands. I put my left hand on that as I lay in the mud, screaming with agony, right hand directly opposite at 180-degree circle. Within 15 minutes, within a matter of 15 minutes, it went into a fire. I mean, it was so hot, hot, hot. And then I went back to normal temperature, and within about 20 minutes, I got up, continued unloading the truck as if nothing had happened. No scars, no black and blue marks, no pain. I repeated this many times over under different kind of conditions, as well as working on this. It's the electromagnetic field. You can either go if you address a trauma at the time of occurrence, so that what you get a chance to do is to work where the first impact is on the astral field. You imprint a strong electromagnetic field emanating between your hands due to your high electro charge. You can bring that astral field back to normal positioning, and the physical structure pops back to the way it should be without going through the normal traumatic type of an experience of immune system, engagement and all the repair and everything like that. It becomes instantaneous. You are very, very powerful. And with that increased electricity, that electrovoltage, like I said, you get a clarity, a sense of, in your dreams, what to do, where to go, what to act. So you are going to be exposed to high electrovoltage. You're going to be exposed to a high level of medical and political insanity. Already, the medical doctors, I spoke with some of them. They're telling me they're getting endless letters from the pharmacology. Are you registering your patients for vaccination against plagues and all that? I hope none of you are giving consideration, because if you are, then you should Google up Mercola, Mercola.com, and check out all about vaccinations. There is no foundation in that vaccination. All it is a way of depopulation. The way to control and reduce rapidly. So it's not a thing that you want to buy into. Instead, you buy whatever viruses and bacteria are there. Dance with them. Enjoy their presence. Let them be. As long as you are cohabiting with friendly bacteria, there's at least 30 of them. Make your sauerkraut. Make your kimchi. And all of you, I'm sure, either if you are on our email list, you'll receive Victor's super fast food kimchi and sauerkraut production. You do it in less than 24 hours. You crank it up. It's a very special procedure. Anybody can do it. Quickly. That's the American way of life. And that's the way of the scene and the magic way of life. Everything happens instantaneously when you are working with the laws of nature, the way nature is intended. So you can prepare yourself. Now, you might say, oh, then there's the famines. Oh, I'm going to have no bread. I'm not going to... Can you imagine being shut off from food? Like it takes, like for instance, Costa Rica, where I'm presently living, we got enough food, rice and beans for about 1 month. Now, you know what happens when people are forced radically, not only consciously not prepared, but also shut off from food and into fasting mode? And of course, the power is going to go. Can you feel the depression, what's going to happen when you get withdrawal from your television set? The insanity. People have relied their whole life centered around insanity of the television medium. They're not going to have any more newspapers to read and to get depressed. So all of a sudden, they got an altered state of consciousness happening to themselves. It's going to be an insane type of world. What do? Well, you got such abundance. You should be familiarizing with the weeds, variety of weeds, learning how to eat grasses. There's all kind of, even manual juicers have a water filtration system that is not dependent on the pressure that is coming out of your piping, out of your tap water. You can go to realgoods.com. As an example, for water filtration, Hippocrates Health Institute offers a manual wheatgrass juicer for $60. Actually, it's cheaper than that. That includes also the shipping. Manual. Got to think in terms of overall manual. Also, at the same time, nutrition. Wow, there's so much nutrition available once you go to nature. In nature, every fragrance is all kind of oil essences. You're getting essential oils out of the air. You could also be getting non-essential oils out of your fried food restaurant that is going to give you increase your cardiovascular disease by 600%. Is the situation people who are living within 500 feet of these restaurants. I mean, studies have been done to that effect. Air is very rich in nutrients. I told you microbes, they're a good source of not only B complex, but also essential proteins. Amino acids, enough to supply all your needs. And of course, whatever grains you have stored up. And some of you have been into Green Beret desert training. I haven't really. But I've known people who have. Or you can talk to people who have been in cave-ins, or you can read in newspapers stories how people survived earthquakes, some of them who were trapped for 1, 2, 3 weeks. No water. My God, that's terrible. You die of dehydration. Unless you know about the magic water fountain that is available, access 24/7 within your own reach. It's called PP. It does work. It's a fantastic source, and you can Google up on the internet Urine therapy plus name a disease. That stuff you can live on for months and months and months. Nothing else. Just keep re-drinking your own. And it starts tasting better every time. Do you realize the medical doctors, about 70, 100 years ago, that's where they used to catch the urine. They go in the back. They looked at it, smelled it, tasted. They could tell a lot about your condition. You can tell a lot about your own condition just by tasting it. Is it very bitter, salt, or very sweet? It indicates that you're quite off. It should have a taste more closer to diluted vegetable broth. To the point where you can serve it to others. It's all a matter of personal relationships and hygiene. There's also strategy of sun, early sun worship, as well as opening your skin. Skin is a source able to acquire calories just like that. Instead of going by way of plant kingdom and concentrating into starches, into sugars, which you ingest, have your own chemistry of enzymes and the whole mechanics of breaking down these macro molecules and releasing the energy. You can get that energy by walking around in the sun. And also, you heard of sun gazing. More and more people are getting into sun gazing as a way of alternative nutrition. They're getting the vibrational fix in the mornings, early in the mornings, and gradually you can find it on cyberspace, the whole rituals and how to go about it. Or you can join a club. Now they do have sun gazing clubs all over the world. Something is changing. The old ways are not working, and also the old ways are those of death, entrapment, and slavery. You don't have to be enslaved by insurance, health insurance. My God, I haven't had health insurance for 50 years. Can you imagine how much money you throw into that? Your medical, and also all the things that go with the cooked food industry. You're looking at $3 trillion market. Disease management and pharmacology, and then throw in another billion for the trillion for the military complex. All non-essential. The whole fear-mongering, because as long as you are into slaughtering of animals, you are into fear consciousness and never feeling comfortable, or can you trust yourself or another being, and because you are vibrating to the hormonal excretions of the pituitary pineal of these slaughtered animals in a state of fear that you have ingested. So go on a plant-based diet. That's first step. You will not have high audience all over cyberspace. You got to think. Give up the pot. Give up the pants. Not your pants and go naked. Though that might be cool too. But, and get into loving yourself. Because as long as you are into judgment, unforgiveness, stuck in the past, you're not living in eternal now and being creative and happy and allowing the flow of information and complete guidance to express yourself fully, so you will dance the dictate of the way it has been orchestrated and ordained for you. Instead, you are not functional, and you will be out of sync with the new harmony, because the new harmony in numerology, it is, we have entered an era where everybody will have a 2 already. Once you got into 2000, and number 2 means that you're comfortable with your relationships. When you got double 2s, you're an intuitive. When you got 3 2s, you're a professional psychic or a headhunter or something like that. By 4, unless you have learned to have some spiritual guidance, you'll go insane because of oversaturation with information, levels of sensitivity. Right now, we are moving in by 2012 into the critical mass of intuitives, so that we will have a planet where, just like you have a planet called your body, which has more entities living in this housing, your housing, in this entity, than 100 times the population of planet Earth. We will have now connected on a level of at one with one another, so that the whole culture of competition will be not there. We will be interested in serving one another. How can I serve you? How can I help you? You will not be even asking, because you will be psyched already to the needs of individuals, and you intuitively be available, because look at the happiest people are the ones who are doing volunteer work. Isn't that right? Instead of the ones who are doing JOB, just above broke thing. Huh? Well, we're going to be all doing volunteer work. No more jobs. This is what that post-era. Now, there's going to be earthquakes. Now, earthquakes and stuff like that. If you still continue to hang out with in turbulent areas, I do suggest look into monolithic domes. They'll reconstruct the monolithic domes so they're built more like submarines with basically a door that is sealable tight, and have the door set up so it'll mean that your flotation unit, namely the dome, will bob up as the tsunamis and the earth changes occur, so you'll be able to move right along. And don't worry, eventually you will have access to food. Be a breatharian for a while. It's not going to hurt you. Matter of fact, it's kind of enjoyable experience to be finally free from that food-related addiction. I mean, so the best structures for handling the changes that are occurring, and these changes are not anything radical. The inconceivable truth of Al Gore. He talks about, I mean, when Al Gore talks about it, though he kind of held back, all this stuff is causing global warming and everything like that. But he forgot to mention cattle industry, which he's very deeply vested in, which is the number one cause, namely the animal husbandry, the number one cause of global meltdown, and the methane, combination of methane and the high level of consumption of petroleum that is engaged by the meat production industry. And the only reason that meat is affordable, so you could have Burger King, is because all these meat industry, meat lobbies, they pay off to all our senators. Here, make free water available, make free grazing lands, or $1 per 1,000 acres, something like that, for grazing that cattle. Denude our forest, have support for grains. So instead of paying $40 a pound, you're paying $1 to $2 a pound, and the fast food industry's made it all feasible, which is, what is it? It's a drug industry. It supports the creation of clientele bases. Nations are being destroyed. I mean, if you had a nation of some level of purity and you saw a fast food, you kill them. You get rid of them. You cannot have those kind of people coming into your place and spoiling whole natural foods. Right now, Costa Rica, it's got every one of the outreach tentacles from USA mainland of fast food industries, and we're seeing cancer spreading like crazy. We see obesity spreading. I mean, you go to Mexico City, 60% of the people there are already severely obese. It's all the processed, greasy foods that people are indulging. So people will be, because of their low electrical voltage, they're on an acid diet, and all of a sudden they're not getting food, they're going to be going through withdrawal reaction and detoxification reaction. And of course, they will go crazy, because there won't be enough people to do guidance, and also they're unloaded, so they're going to go for. Don't tell too many people who are meat eaters that you're a vegan, because that is price cannibalistic potential meat source. Go skinny. And also have an auric field of peace, joy, and when people step into your, all they can experience is divine love. I worked in Harlem. I was one of the few white boys in those days. I'm talking about 30 years ago. Nobody bothered me. Matter of fact, the ones who stepped into my art field who had intentions of evil nature, they fell in love with me. We had them come to the lectures, to the workshops we were doing in Harlem on 125th Street. We took tons of people with my book Survival and the teachings of Brother Kanye, who was a psychologist, who ran that school there, 125th School. Took so many people off prostitution, drug addiction, made them price planetary citizens. That's where it's at. And all you can do during this time to think in terms of thriving, and this is the age of thriving of our lifestyles. We are the cutting edge. The wellness revolution, the next trillion. They foresee such high prolific growth of these alternative industries. Why? Well, first of all, it addresses the current needs of our culture. About 70% of our American citizenry are sick with incurable diseases. They're medical dependent. And closer to 90% of the people are addicted to something, whether it's work, sex, or alcohol or drugs, you name it, or overeating, the ultimate drug of choice. Acting as a vehicle for comfort food phenomena because most people are not happy. They're not happy with their jobs. The highest rate of death occurs on Monday at 9 o'clock when they got to go back to work. You got to become entrepreneurs, independent. Also, align yourself with your Dharma. And if you don't know, like I said, try numerology, try astrology, meditate, and ask for guidance. Knock, and it shall open. Ask, and it shall be given. The universe is a very bioactive cyberspace that is readily accessible to all of us on a minute-to-minute notice as soon as we drop our ego and relax and shut off our mind from the Webster Dictionary world into nothingness so that the information can have a feedback loop and of knowledge pouring through your system. And of course, you can just do automatic writing and download this information for your own elucidation. All of you have that kind of access, but can you quiet yourself? One of the major turbulence for people is the storms that are raging internally associated with gastric digestion. It's the #1 cause for hospitalization and doctor visits, absentee from work. So, vegan diet, small eating, light eating, being calm, prayerful, writing the kind of world you want to live in. Plan your future. Feel confident about your nature of your future, and this is what you're going to walk into. But if you don't plan, then you will be subject to all the turmoils that is coming down. It's not a matter of 10 years from now, like watching the 11th hour. Oh, we're looking at 10, 20. No, we're looking at weeks, months, years, couple years, maybe up to 2012. But we are going to step into a world of paradisical peace, harmony, at one man, love, cooperation. Because finally we will, the Babylon tower will have fallen. Communication will be taking place on an ESP level. We'll be using writing and words for, just like we are using paintbrush and sculptures as artistic expressions of our poetic nature. But as far as day-to-day communication, it's non-essential. When your electrovoltage is high enough, you start psyching with one another. And then when all those electromagnetic fields that are creating storms raging, so you got to prepare. You got to think in terms of monetary system. Well, just go to zeitgeist.com. It'll give you an insight what the monetary system looks like, as well as Federal Reserves.
Could you say that name one more time?
Zeit, ZEITGIST.com.
Sign of the times.
Got, you will need to think in terms of more community, being outside of the madness of the city. Think in terms of bicycles for immediate transportation instead, or motorcycles with having access to gas. So you can move to your outside of the range of influence of the madness of the city. You might, but you will know when to evacuate. And with all the little dissertations we had just now, you have an insight into that it is not hard to have adequate nourishment. As your circulation increases, you don't have also issues of temperature control, so you can adapt to a tremendously wide range of environmental conditions, whether it's a fire or radiation or very icy age. As this, we have go through ice age and earth changes practically on a 100,000-year cycle. In Newsweek, they spoke of ice age. Says we haven't really the faintest idea what an ice age looks like at its entry level. We could be already immersed in it. And primarily, ice ages come on a periodic nature to move the land masses that are above, that have been demineralized by the rain and the plant life, and a very large volume of the land masses go under. A large volume goes up, which provides highly mineralized soil, which is all the minerals, namely the sea salt, has all the minerals brought back to the land, and once again the paradise blossoms. The whole idea is to be able to be a shape shifter and to be able to move according to the reshaping of planet Earth. The planet Earth is going to stay here. It's going to continue to thrive. And there'll be some survivors, as there has been survivors through Al Gore. He spoke about the 600,000 years, 6 cycles of ice ages that have depopulated severely a large segment of animal life, sometimes losing as much as 90% of it. But the planet is very alive and refurbishes itself. As we've seen, in a matter of 70 years, we increased our population by 700%. So you will find the ways to handle the changes, but good idea is to have strategies, have ways to keep warm. I do suggest a good investment is to keep as a backup at 20 degrees below, sleeping bag, some good quality tents, ways to also to identify plants, and to practice fasting, cleansing, and detoxification, because that will give you the ability to respond appropriately to the changing times. So, the prophecies that you have heard from Edgar Cayce, from Nostradamus, from Gordon Scallion. By the way, Gordon Scallion, I met him in Connecticut when he came to our community when he was a computer salesman. That was in the early days of laptop development. And he said, I got a job opportunity. And he says, I don't have the time to learn all that information. My mind is kind of a little slow and sluggish. So he says, what do I do? So I said to him, well, I said, what do you do is basically eat only one meal, a small bowl, chew it real well. I didn't even tell him what to eat. I says, drink water throughout the day. And he, obviously, and I says, also at the same time, stay away from people as much as possible. And I see him 6 months later, and he says to me, hi, thank you. I says, for what? Oh, he says, you got me started on something phenomenal. I said, so you like your new job? He says, no, I hated it. I says, well, what happened? He says, well, after about a month, he says, on the job and following your program, I developed psychic ability, and I started getting jobs for the industry. I'm charging $1,000 an hour for channeling business plans and strategizing for the future. Now he has about only 80% success. He says probably one of his major reasons, he says, is he loves pizza, he loves Italian food, and he says it kind of messes up with his electrocircuitry.
Viktoras, could you give us one last statement that we can remember you by, and then we have to close? Thank you.
Thank you. And my statement that I wish to share with you, love yourself, love others as yourself, practice moderate eating, small meals, eat only when hungry, take time out to enter stillness and silence, go horizontal at least once a day so you won't have the compression of the spine, love everybody in your area and outside, and try to eat more and more green foods. Re-alkalize, re-enzymize, re-mineralize. That's the dictate of the day. And fast, take enemas, and wait for the instruction from God. Amen.